Okay. Looks like we're up and ready. Hey everyone. Hey everyone. This is Kim E, the Diabetes MP. And if you have been following me over the past couple of lives, you know that I am trying to do multi-streaming. And so I have Instagram here, and I have YouTube and LinkedIn up here. It appears as if I finally have gotten LinkedIn Live working. So this will be great. And so anyways, I just wanted to come in midday and let's go ahead and get into standard 3. If you have not already, I have already given my commentary over standard 1 and also standard 2. On LinkedIn, because I was not able to go live, because I wasn't able to go live and get that right, the first 2 standards, I just posted them, the link to the YouTube feed. And so you can get them there. But today we're going to go ahead and get into standard 3. Hopefully this won't take long because this is a very short standard, okay? And really to the point, a few things have been updated. Hey girl, how you doing? But just so you know, like I have said, if this is your first time hopping on with me, my plan is to go through each standard. And I'm not going to summarize it. I'm not going to read it to you. I encourage every provider, every clinician to, or anyone actually, honestly, that, hey, anybody that deals with anyone that's diagnosed with diabetes, I definitely suggest that you read them yourself. And even if it's a pretty stout document, at the bare minimum, at least pull the standards that are relevant to you, okay, and to your unique population, your demographic. And so what I'm going to do now is just kind of give you a little commentary. You know, I've been reading over the standards. There have been some good updates. And the last standard we talked about, one of the big updates is that screening for diabetes is now starting at 35 versus last year it was 45. That's a 10-year difference. Yes, a Frieza. You know what? I have only seen type 1, people who have type 1 diabetes. And I've only seen a very small amount of people that are on a Frieza, but people like it, you know. And so it's not really readily used. You don't really see it too much with people who have type 2, but it's a really good medicine. So anyways, let's hop into this because I'm pretty sure y'all are on your lunch break or something like that. And so I don't want to take up all your time. And so, all right, standard 3, prevention or delay of type 2 diabetes and associated comorbidities. So we're only talking about type 2 in this standard. And there really wasn't a lot of updates here. There were a few, and I'll point those out to you. And so let's get into it. With this one, this is really talking about like the screening and when should you screen, how should you screen. And the first paragraph talks about the informal assessment. In the last live that I did, in there they include the ADA screening survey. It's like a 1-pager, and this is a good informal assessment to see if you should do further lab tests. You know, one of the things that I noticed with some clinics, some facilities, is that we miss the opportunity to pick up prediabetes. And so this is a good screening tool. And so it talks about it. It basically mentions it again that, you know, doing an informal assessment. Of course, in the last standard, it tells us all the people who would be good candidates to be screened. And so basically it's saying, you know, coming in and doing an informal assessment is something that should just be a part of your clinical workflow to see if you should go ahead and get blood work to do all the other testing. Alrighty, so first thing is a big one, lifestyle behavior change for diabetes prevention. And really what I really want to touch on here is just the diabetes prevention program. There are a number of landmark trials that are basically used and referenced when it goes back to just diabetes management. So what we see today of what we do in management is really guided by what we call some landmark trials, research, very extensive. And one of those trials was the Diabetes Prevention Program study, where they basically put people through a whole prevention program. It was heavily pushed. Weight loss was heavily pushed. Exercise, physical activity was heavily pushed. And clearly, that's where we get the research from. By exercising, losing weight is what can prevent diabetes. And the trial was so successful that now that's what is used when we do our diabetes prevention programs. If you don't know what a diabetes prevention program, a person qualifies for that if they have diabetes and their BMI has to hit overweight, obesity, and then they can be eligible to go into a DPP, which is a diabetes prevention program. You also have your diabetes self-management trainings, education. These are for people who are already diagnosed with diabetes, and you can get them into a program, okay? These are recognized through Medicare, CMS, CDC. If you want to actually, you just can't say, well, we do a prevention program. No, it has to be recognized. There's benchmarks, there's, analytics and stuff. So basically it's outlining like the success of this the diabetes prevention program, and really highlighting what they found. So, like I said, talked about weight loss, talked about physical activity, and those are like the driving forces behind it. It's some other things. Go read it yourself, but that's just pretty much bird's eye view. Goes into also nutrition. The big thing and we actually have a diabetes registered dietitian on here, Madeline. She's also a CDC, yes, just like I am. And she can speak a lot about this. If you're not following her, she's diabetes.rd. I believe that's your handle, Madeline. But one thing I want to point out about nutrition, I'm pretty sure all of us have gotten this question before. What's the best diet for me to be on? Well, there is not a one size fits all diet. And every time I tell people that, every time I tell patients that, I always get this look of like upset, like I didn't give them what they wanted to hear. There is no pill that you can take. There is no special diet that every person that has diabetes needs to refer to. No, there isn't. And here's the reason why, because we are all different. People have allergies. People have food sensitivities. So if you think about it, common sense will tell you one diet wouldn't cut it for everybody, right? And so, of course, there are diets that have been studied. There are diets that, have gotten great results, but not enough to a point to say this is the diet you should follow. But there is great results with the Mediterranean diet. But here's the thing with that. Some people don't like fish. Some people are allergic to fish. Some people don't like nuts. And the thing that I love about dietitians and nutritionists is that, and this is why I push getting your patients to them, is because they literally take what the person, their eating habit is, their likes, their preferences, and they sculpt something for them. It's very doable. It's like, I can adhere to this. But, I have to do a lot of unlearning for my patients, because all of them think, okay, eating healthy is me. I have to eat salads every day. Well, you do need to increase your vegetables, but there's so much food that you can incorporate, and you can increase your palate. There are so many foods out there. And so we really have to open up people's minds, right? And so this is basically what this section is saying, that there is not a ideal percentage of carbs. Like it should be individualized, because people are like, well, how many carbs should I take? How many protein? Get your people into a nutritionist, a dietitian, because that's what they went to school to do. We know very basic stuff, but it's individualized. And that nutritionist, that dietitian can get them in and talk to them and sculpt something that can work for them, right? Like a person like my father, he does not like vegetables. Okay. Now you can get him to sneak a piece of broccoli in, you know what I'm saying? But he's a meat and potatoes man. He's of that generation that likes that. So you have to come with more than just eating salads. Because when I tell him to eat healthy, that's the first thing that his mind goes to. And I'm pretty sure that you all probably have family members that are like that. You have patients that are like that as well. So that is a part of diabetes management and helping patients to get the most optimal care. That's a piece of the puzzle, okay? And so it talks about that there. We go into physical activity. You know, the recommendation is still the same, minimum of 150 minutes a week. One of the things that I tell people is that it does not have to be your traditional in a gym pumping iron on a treadmill running. People get a lot of exercise just from doing yard work. Cleaning the house, you know what I'm saying? Being active, but it does have to be moderately intensive. So that's like a brisk walk, okay? And something that they do bring up later on, but I'll go ahead and mention it, is that it's really good to have people to do some type of activity after they eat, because that helps with their postprandial glucose. It brings it down. And I want to say the rule of thumb is that for every minute of exercise, that brings down the blood sugar 1 point. So like 30 minutes of exercise brings down the blood sugar 30 points. And when I have explained that to patients, they really, that's doable. When you think about it like that gives it, it's almost like it automatically motivates them. So you go for a 15-minute walk, you can bring that blood sugar down. You know what I'm saying? And so that's something to keep in consideration. Definitely talks about breaking up prolonged sedentary time. So getting up, if you have an Apple Watch, I know my watch tells me to stand up all the time. And so things like that, these are things that we can tell our patients to do. These are very feasible things for them to do. Let's see here. I think one thing, some of us, y'all probably know this already, but they say that metformin can be considered for those who are classified as having prediabetes. The thing that I noted from this year's standard, from last year's standard, I really have noticed that they're really trying to be very specific with being a little bit more detailed with what they say. So last year it said, I'll read the statement and then I'll tell you what it says this year. Last year it said metformin therapy for prevention of type 2 diabetes should be considered in adults with diabetes, with those who have a BMI of 35 or higher and fasting blood glucose of 110 or higher. And it was also for anyone that is less than 60 years of age. Well, this year, that age, they define that age to this year. It's 25 to 59. So I guess somewhere along the line, they felt like, we need to define this a little bit more, give people an age range. And that's what they did on this one. Something to keep in mind as well, long-term use of metformin. It's a common known thing that it can produce vitamin B12 deficiency. And so you do want to have some periodic screenings for B12. So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Something that was brought up was that, and I mentioned this in standard 2, that by having prediabetes, that puts you at risk for cardiovascular issues. And so the takeaway here is that when you have that person that is in that range of prediabetes, that you really do want to key in on all of the cardiovascular risks that they may have. Okay, not just even having diabetes, but having prediabetes puts you at risk. So let's talk about that for a quick second. I know that I have said this out of my own mouth, so I'll use myself as a guinea pig, and you can just tell me if y'all have done this or not. The language behind prediabetes, I'm borderline. I'm not quite at that diabetes range, so I don't have to do nothing. Well, no, it's actually a golden opportunity for you as the provider and your patient, okay? And so you really do need to use that as like red flag. We need to intervene, get them into an MNT program, get them into, a DPP, quickly, start screening them for cardiovascular risk, which in later standards we'll go over what that is. But they're telling you that we should be paying attention in prediabetes, right? And then the last thing that was not a part of the standard last year was a whole section, which is patient-centered care goals. And here's the thing, you will see this as a common theme throughout all of the standards, okay? You'll see this as a common theme throughout the whole standards, 1 through 17, right? Because now they added another one. It was 1 through 16. Now it's 1 through 17. We're on 3 today. But patient-centered care. Patient-centered care. They're going to make sure that we understand that the patient is the center of everything that we do. Their preferences, their comorbidities, their unique financial situation. I mean, all these things have to come into play when we're deciding what we're going to do for patients. And here's the reason why I am so big on patient-centered care. I'll take it a step further because they didn't say this, I said this, right? We can make these blanket statements over whole ethnic groups and cultural groups and groups of people in general, and then wonder why we're not getting the results we're getting, because one person does not define the collective and the collective does not define one individual. And here in the coming month, because next month is February, it's Black History Month, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. But as a Black person, I am Black, but I am an American. There are different types of Black communities that have different backgrounds and different cultures, you know what I'm saying? And it's a diaspora effect, right? Because everybody they're not from America. And we can look at things and put it through the lens of an American society. You have people that are immigrants. You have people that have never, now they're here because their children might have brought them here from whatever country, but they don't eat like Americans, And so when you make these blanket statements, you are putting and projecting one idea on the whole group of people. And that's just not true. Now, I'll be the first to say this, America, it ain't just Black folk, it's all Americans. We eat horribly, okay? Our portion size is horrible. If you go to any other country, that's why Americans seem like we starve when we go elsewhere, because we're so used to big portions, where when you go elsewhere, they give you smaller portions. They use smaller plates. But we have to not look at stuff through that lens of American, right? And I see it a lot in the Black community because there are Black people across the diaspora. And we'll get into that a little later, right? And I realized that as I have been doing trainings and people are like talking about certain specific niches in groups of people. And it's like, just because they're Black, and I'm using Black as an example, okay? Because this could be any cultural group, honestly. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can be any cultural group. You're talking to this person as if they were born and raised in America, or if they were born and raised in doing this thing. No, they don't come from that. They primarily in that country may eat a lot of vegetables. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to keep that in mind when it comes to patient-centered care and really keying in on what is important to the patient, because that's part of your patient engagement, is what's important to them. What are their pain points? In this, it says, because with the standards, they always give you these sections, and then they kind of give you like a little highlight here of like what the whole section is going to be talking about. And it says here, in America, with overweight, obesity at high risk of type 2 diabetes, care goals should include weight loss or prevention of weight gain, minimizing progression of hyperglycemia, and attention to cardiovascular risk and associated comorbidities. Let's see. Yes. So one thing that I do want to bring up, I had a case one time where I was talking to a lady, and we were talking about her sugars and her numbers or whatever, and it was clear that she was classified as obese, and she had diabetes or whatever. Now, this woman, very open to hear whatever I wanted to say. We had a conversation. It was like, okay, whatever you say, let's talk about it. One thing you have to be careful with when it comes to talking about weight, it's sensitive. Like a lot of other things, right? Like a lot of other things, it's sensitive. And one thing that I like to do is to ask people permission to talk about their weight, right? They even in the standards even outline that it's not always necessary to get a weight every single time you meet with the person. Because why? Because why necessarily? Unless there is a certain reason why, like we're trying to track weight, but even still, like you wouldn't have to do that in your clinic every single encounter. But anyways, I asked her if it was okay if we talked about her weight. She said yes. And I asked her, like, how motivated are you to lose weight? Because that's something that you need to ask. We cannot assume that everybody wants to lose weight. They don't. Some people are okay with where they're at. Okay. And, so anywho, she was like, yes, I know that this is something that I should focus on. I know that I should lose weight. I can feel that I can lose weight. But what I am actually concerned about as of today is that overnight my blood sugars drop and I get hypoglycemia. And I thought in that moment, and so of course we go ahead and we start talking about the ways to troubleshoot hypoglycemia and things like that. But as I was reflecting over this patient case, I was just thinking about how many times we go into situations where we automatically just start talking about losing weight. We don't think about it being offensive. Outside of the clinical space, how offended would you be if somebody just starts talking to you about your weight? But that's the receiving end of our patients, right? And so anyways, so we talked about that. And then by me hearing her out on her priority problem, that was her pain point, she then was like, well, so also let's talk about me losing weight. It opened the door and ushered me into the conversation that I did want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? And we were able to talk about both. Now, sometimes people may not want to talk about that right now. And you just keep working on that, but I did want to bring that out is that, like, I think sometimes when we read statements like this, that we automatically think that every encounter we just need to address weight. And yes, there's lots of benefits with weight, okay? But it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and we have to, give our patients, just like us, we need to have, like, a spectrum of goals. So, like, that may be more of a long-term goal. That may be an intermediate goal. But, like, what can they do today to get them a quick win? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like when we give our patients quick wins, then they're ready to come back for more. Does that make sense? So anyways, that's all I got, guys. For the standard 3, again, recommend you go and read it. Very short. It's very short. This is something that if you come in contact with anyone that has type 2, this is the one you need to read, okay? One of the ones you need to read. And so anyways, again, I will come back on. I am not going to be coming on tomorrow. Tomorrow's my birthday, okay? But when I come back on again, what I'm going to do is do multiples. I'm going to do probably like 2, if I can do 3. I try not to make this too long. And so, because I wanted to come on and we just kind of chat a little bit, kiki a little bit, and then we pop on off, okay? Yes, it is on the ADA website, but it's on the professional side. So if you just Google 2022 ADA Standards of Care, it will put it up, and you want to go to the site that's like, I think it's like professional dot something. You'll see it, and then you can bring it up because you can actually purchase the book of Standards of Care. I just get it for free off the website, but do what you need to do. But I print them off, and I print them off as individual ones, and then I just read and highlight because that's just how I learn. So, but you can do whatever you want to. You can download it on. They give it to you a lot of different ways, and they have an abridged version as well. And the great thing about the standards of care is throughout the year, as updates come, you can always kind of circle back, and there's a button that says check for updates, and it'll tell you if the standard has had any updates or not. So they want us to stay up to date, guys. You know what I'm saying? And so, anywho, I will come on, I would say probably on Sunday. If not Sunday, Monday. And if I come on Monday, we're going to do like 3. But if I come on Sunday, we'll probably do 2. That's what I'm going to challenge myself to do that. And thank you guys for that birthday wishes. Well, I'm about to go ahead and hop on off. You all have a great Friday and a great weekend. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.